you guys, D&D might be a little racist. Just a little. And it's not against any real people. It's all fictional races, so there's nobody getting oppressed. It's fine. It's fine. It's not fine. Because this is not an isolated thing. D&D is just an especially egregious example of a thing that happens across fiction, especially in fantasy, but also it's an epidemic in sci-fi. And it's bad writing, it's lazy, it's not interesting, it's probably not great for real life society. It's just not good. So let's talk about it. First off though, let's read an example of a race done well. Also straight from the D&D Player's Handbook. Which, that's interesting, because it proves they know how to do it. They can write good races, they just didn't for most races. Here's what it says. This is from the human section on page 29. Quote, "There is no typical human." Now paraphrasing, it says humans can be large or small, dark or pale with all kinds of hairdos. Humans can have traits from other fantasy races splashed in. It flat out says they have more cultural variety than other races, different from region to region. But of course, we need specifics. This is a game. It can't just say do whatever. So then it gives some specific examples of regions and cultures and ethnic groups with plenty of interesting specifics. Oh, what a deep, complex, well-written race you can pick. It's almost as if this passage was written by a human. Now let's contrast that with elves. Elves, it says, each live for hundreds of years at these small, secluded villages in the woods, rarely meeting outsiders. Boy, what fertile ground for variety. Seems like every village would develop its own culture. If they're all so isolated, elves must be even more varied than humans. Nope. There's three kinds. High, wood, dark. But actually, they're almost all the same. They all like magic, poetry, and nature. They all have this prideful aloofness. They use the same weapons, the same tactics, the same names. These elves are clearly inspired by the Tolkien elves. But gone are the many languages and sublanguages of the great linguist. Instead, all elves uniformly speak the same language called... Oh wait, let me just check my notes here. Oh, Elvish. I mean, come on. Do they also live in Elfland and worship the Elvic gods? Oh wait, plus they speak Common, the language that is clearly the human language, but it's not called Humish, is it? And why do they speak Common? Well, because the humans need to talk to them. And you can't expect the humans to all speak Elvish. That would be crazy. Oh, and there are half-elves too. What's the other half? Well, human, obviously. The default people, the normal people, who speak the default language but have infinite internal complexity, apparently unlike the elves. Like, just for a moment, let's imagine what it would feel like if humans were described the way elves are. Humans love to drink ale and forge at their blacksmithies. They are generally skilled at the crossbow and farming. They are a belligerent and hardy folk, quick to anger but quick to laugh. Also, they are mostly named John. Like, do you see the problem? This reads like it was written by someone who met one elf and couldn't remember the name of the elf's language. And I want to stress, this is not just D&D. This is across the board when it comes to fiction. The main characters and player characters always have all this depth and complexity, each coming from a different culture, but not completely conforming to that culture. But everyone else, the aliens, the orcs, the ghosts, the house elves, the vampires, whatever there is, all of them have exactly one culture. Usually science fiction is better than fantasy at thinking things through, but aliens are among the worst offenders. If you met one, you've met them all. They're nearly always a monolith. Maybe you got the sexy alien race, the warrior alien race. Oh, speaking of, a moment ago when I was listing fantasy races, I was going to mention the Klingons, but then I realized I already covered them when I said aliens and orcs. Not great, not good. But wait, what if that's just how it's supposed to be? Like, maybe the point is that variety is exclusively a human trait. And sure, if that's explicit, then fine. If you come out and say the aliens are a hive mind, they literally can't think for themselves, or they're so, like, wildly different from humans that they don't have culture, like the concept of culture doesn't apply to them, fine. If you got that going on, then you get a pass. But for the rest, I'm not buying it. Oh, they're supposed to be all the same. The story you wrote is that there's no story. That's not a cool reveal. That's lazy backpedaling. Plus, it's contradicted by the other super common trope, the rebel. Because there's always one who's different from the rest. Just one, maybe two. Coincidentally, it's always the one who joins the party, or at least interacts the most with the main characters. It's Dobby, it's Spock in 7 of 9, it's half the cast from Dragon Age and Mass Effect. It's every time someone plays an elf or an orc in D&D. They're always exceptions, not like the rest of their race. And these are beloved characters all. I'm not saying the characters are bad, but they are the exceptions that prove the rule. True story, I wrote this part of the rant and then afterward discovered there's a special paragraph about this exactly in the elf section of the player's handbook. It literally says, were it not for one renowned exception, the race of drow would be universally reviled. And then it goes on to talk about the one individual. Like, I mean, at least they know their genre. And why is this? Why is there always one? Because as a player or an author or a game master, the minute you start trying to play one of these races or write them in a compelling way, you immediately realize that of course your character needs some variety. They need to be able to think for themselves a little bit. They can't just be a cookie cutter stamp of the rest. The instant you start trying to think of them as a person instead of a race, you instinctively realize the racial boundaries are too tight. And if you thought just a little harder, you might realize that if such a two-dimensional, oversimplified concept of race can't even contain a single compelling character, if the first thing you do when you try to imagine yourself in that space is buck against the boundaries, then maybe that's how everyone would be. You know, to some degree. Maybe that's just how people are. And that's all I'm saying. When you're making a fantasy race, just try to imagine what that race might be like if there were some people in it. Just some. You know, extra credit if the culture changes over time, but baby steps. And look, it's not that hard. We'll do it together right now. Make a new fantasy race without being quite so close-minded. Say there's a people with wings. Not bird people, not angel people, those ideas are fine, but they have a lot of baggage, and we're trying to make something new. This is just people, plus they have wings and can fly. What would they call themselves? Wing folk, perhaps? No, that's what a groundling might name them. We're not going to write them like some ignorant dirt walker. People don't name themselves from others' point of view. No, to them, they're the normal ones, and everybody else has a disability. Poor ground crawlers with their petty lowborn squabbles. They're not to be blamed. Of course, it's not their fault they were born barely high enough to see over their own noses. We should be humbly grateful we have such an elevated perspective, such vision. There we go, that's the name. They're the Vizians. Now, where do the Vizians live? Atop high mountains, perhaps? Nah. I mean, well, sure, some of them live up there, the crazy ones, but it takes just as much energy to fly up a mountain as it does to hike up it. More actually, it's like sprinting up a mountain, but you can't stop to rest or you'll fall and lose progress. Also, it sucks on top of mountains. It's cold, there's no food. No, for the same reasons as everyone else, Vizians live in houses, perhaps on hilltops, but always near food and water. It takes a lot of calories to power those wings, so food is very important. The entrances to their homes are usually on the roof, of course, so mud people like us might need to bring a ladder if they want to visit. Vizians don't keep ladders around, why would they? They can travel easily, so geographically they live everywhere, scattered too far and wide for any centralized country or empire. Culturally, though, it's more of a melting pot situation. Vizians generally adopt some culture from the local ground folk where they live, but they also travel a lot, maybe even migrate twice a year. That gives them the chance to catch up with other Vizians and form a semi-unified racial identity. Of course, there's clans and trends and religions and movements all changing constantly with time and distance. Basically, you can't tell what a Vizian is going to be like just by knowing they're a Vizian, obviously. But what about their language? Do they all speak Vizian? No. Races are not languages. Does everyone in Asia speak Asian? That's how it sounds when a fantasy race is also a language. But what if we really want a common language? It's so convenient for games. No problem, just don't make it about race. Look, we'll make one right now, not just for the Vizians, but for the whole world they live in. So Vizians can fly, right? That means they're probably pretty good messengers. Then who better to set up the first worldwide postal service? Maybe it's even a cult, this secretive, intense subgroup among the Vizians who worship the mail. It makes sense to me that such a tight-knit but far-flung group would develop a special language all their own. Spoken and written, because they're running the postal service, of course they're going to use it themselves. Let's call this secret postal language Scriptic. But of course, useful secrets rarely stay secret, and nothing gets people's attention like knowing there's something they don't know. So So the language gets leaked. People defect from the cult and they teach others. And, well, shucks. A secret language isn't useful for secrets once it's leaked, but it might be useful for something else. So eventually the cult just lets it be the official language of the mail, which is super useful because now people can send letters anywhere in the world, confident that someone there will speak and read Scriptic. World communication explodes. The postal service is more popular than ever. They accrue wealth and power. More time passes. Scriptic becomes the official language of diplomacy, and then ultimately the most common language of the world. Bam! Common language achieved, with a much cooler name and backstory than common. Steal as much of that as you like, by the way. Whew, that got more ranty than I thought it would. If you like my stuff, check out my board game. It's called Minions and Madness. You play as an evil genius trying to squeeze your poor minions for all they're worth. It's got strategy, negotiation, and a lot of dark humor. Sadly, the minions rarely live long enough to develop much cultural diversity. Also, I've got a Discord channel. It's been a little dead for a while, but now it's back to life thanks to several y'all who have been showing up, so thank you. If you want to talk to me about stories or games or whatever, that's where you can reach me best. Link below, and until next time, toodles.